real business owner.
Whatever your situation is currently is not your forever situation.
That's really what real business owners is, man. Like, we don't care where you come from, where are you going?
Our goal and our job is to reduce the mistakes that you have to make or the money that you have to lose.
You want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be successful, don't give up.
You learn, adjust, and continue to move forward.
Welcome back to the Real Business Owners Podcast. This is episode 130 with myself, Trevor and Kale. As always, Kale Goodman.
What's up, everybody?
Guys, today we have the boss hog with us today. Is it okay if I label you as that?
Oh, sure, man. I'll
Yeah,
take that
yeah,
label,
yeah.
bro. Like, I've been called some way
he
more
was
fucked
taken-
up shit than that.
Yeah. He was taken back by it. I was like, you gave me $20 to call you that to start the show, bro. You know? And if you slide me a couple more, I'll call you whatever the hell you want, you know?
Oh, man. You know, I bribed your help, too, you know, to make sure that...
Exactly. So, guys, we have a good friend, John Highley, on the show today. You know, he's involved in... I think yesterday as we were talking, like 7 different businesses or streams of income. You know, he's one of those individuals that have built one thing and then found something else that he was great at, started building that thing, and basically just a man of action. Started doing one thing that turned into 2, that turned into 3, then 4, you know, basically similar to what we do, right? Yeah. You know, we just always look for opportunity and not just stay, you know, tunnel vision to exactly what we're doing. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that. They just look at their business as the only vehicle to get to success, and they need to take the blinders off because there's probably opportunities around them. Maybe they're good at something else within their business that they could ultimately turn into another business, right? And so John's done an amazing job of that. So John, welcome to the show, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it, brother. It's been a long time. I've been wanting to get over here and see you guys. And
I know we've been talking about it
this
for
one's
what,
been a long
6,
time.
8 months. I mean, we've been talking about it for a hot minute.
You know, I just figured that your audience keeps growing. So
Yeah,
the longer that we waited, you know, I just figured I was just milking the old teat, right?
My time's over. You got to have at least 1 million downloads or else I'm not coming, bro. Hey, we're getting close. I think we're 750, something like that.
Yeah, man.
So.
I mean, your audience is just exploding. And even people that I know in different industries that we do business in come up to me and they're just like, dude, you know them guys. You know, they see photos of us together. And there's just so many people that listen to you guys and get so much value from what it is that you offer. It's very unique. Just a very powerful podcast that I think is needed in the industry. And I think both of you guys have such an incredible take between the two of you, and the dynamic perspective that you guys have is just so valuable.
Dude, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
And you know what?
That's
one of the things I really like about you too, dude, is you're leading your group, the Marketing Savage.
Yeah.
You know, you crush out your book this year. It's phenomenal. But dude, you're just truly a giver, bro. And you're always adding value and you're just always taking charge and leading. And we've seen that throughout the last couple years that we've been a part of groups with you as well. And so I've been really excited to have you out and come share. Because every time, just so everybody listening knows, like every time we're in Dallas together, it's like we somehow end up at the table with John, and it's like always refreshing because we go down these different paths that most people don't go down with business. And one thing that's your superpower.
Sometimes it's spiritual shit.
Yeah, it
is.
is.
And that's just all over the place. Yeah.
One thing that makes you super powerful, though, is like you pay attention to like people, and that's what makes you such a great marketer, man. Like you're always paying attention to marketing, just the business climate, people individually. Like, dude, you pay really close attention to things, and I've always noticed that about you. And I think that's one of the things that makes you super valuable.
Well, I think he's got a sixth sense that he just doesn't talk about.
Right.
You know, he could tell when something's off or this or that,
does.
like you were talking about yesterday. You know what I mean? Like you just. I don't know if it's just more of an energy type thing or what, where you just pick up on certain vibrations. You're like, something's off here or whatever.
So I
right?
tend to be very intuitive with that, and I think a lot of that's just becoming very self-aware about myself. You know, I've been on this journey of just becoming deeply self-aware of not only like when I'm productive, but when are the hot times to actually, you know, I just believe that there's always a time to sow and there's a time to reap, right? And we got to understand like what that is inside of us or what that looks like in our world. And you've got to understand when to switch flip the switch from sowing to reaping. And you got to be able to do that over and over and over again. And you can't get discouraged. So some people get discouraged when they stop reaping, right?
Yeah.
So that's the time when you got to flip the switch to sowing again. And what I think that your audience is going to get out of this podcast by the end of it, of course, is that there's a gold mine inside of all of our businesses, because a lot of my businesses were built off of one core business.
Yeah.
And from there, I found other gold mines inside of that business that I was able to bring to the world. And every single business out there has the opportunity to literally, I know this kind of sounds cliche, but 10x what they're doing by selling different elements of their business to the world.
Right.
Okay.
You should say 11x.
11x.
We don't want to be associated with Cardone.
Yeah, for me, it might have been a 7x, or for you, it might be a 2x, right?
There you go. Thank you.
Or a 5x. I mean, ultimately, most people, actually, a buddy of mine said, what about 2x?
Yeah.
Because wouldn't a ton of fucking people be happy with a 2x?
Yeah. There's a company actually called, isn't it 2x? Scale 2x.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Right.
And they
He
actually
knows that. You know that guy, actually.
Yeah. It's funny because he actually grew up in my hometown, Austin.
Nestle.
that.
Yeah. He Scale 2x, and that's what they do. But it's built around systems and processes.
Yes.
In terms of seeing where you're inefficient. If you don't have systems and processes, then you don't really even know where you're inefficient or where you are efficient, because you can't measure it, right? And so that's what they're doing, is they basically create data to say, well, you need to do more of this or that or whatever it is through a systems and process.
Well, it's amazing because I actually came up with a method of that data. So once you actually get that data, you'll find that there's compounding numbers inside of that data.
Right.
Meaning that you might have a conversion rate, but that's going to be based on the amount of people that come through and flow through your funnels, or flow through your business, or that you're in contact to. How many touch points you have each year, right? And that's going to have a conversion rate. But if you actually tweak your touch points, tweak your funnels, tweak the way that you do business, maybe put a bigger sign in front of your storefront for the ones that have a storefront, have a traffic count, things like that, you're going to find that your conversion rate might be higher. So you got a compounding number there. And then if you actually go down the line a little bit further and you look at things like average customer value, you start adding more profitable services to your core service, you can actually raise that average cart value. So you start adding them three things up, you got three things that compound each other. And then if you top that off by having a good campaign to actually bring people back into the funnel, right? So to bring the existing clients back into your climate, or to stay in contact with them and bring them back into the funnel, now you actually compound it again. So we've actually shown in many of the companies that I've taken over that we were able to take them metrics and them numbers and actually take a company that was profiting $80,000 and quickly turn it into a $300,000 profit.
Right.
And typically you can do that with just about any business if you understand the data, understand the numbers, and you understand tweak the things that have a compounding effect.
No,
And,
that's factual.
Yes.
That's why a lot of the bigger companies are built around systems and processes, and the reason why they're probably big is because they had systems and processes and they had the data to make better business decisions, so they're not wasting as much money as the average entrepreneur just guessing their way through it.
Yeah, and just throwing shit against the
wall
wall and hoping
or
that it
if you
sticks.
throw three shits against the wall, you might not know which shit's sticking.
Right.
Because you just got stuff coming in from all direct, but you're not measuring the metrics of it,
There's a period of time in business where we all just kind of wing it,
Yeah, of course.
And then it's like you start finally getting some momentum, but there's so many people that just stay winging it, And it's like, until you dial in those things like you're talking about, man, you don't really see that.
Well, that's where
exponential growth.
Well, yeah, that's where the entrepreneur's pain comes from. I mean, most people, their pain comes from not being able to leave their business, not being able to fully understand how to grow and scale their business. And, I mean, you see that in so many entrepreneurs' eyes that they're just fucking, they built this business that they wanted to love, that they wanted to build a life around, and now they feel like it's sucking the life out of them. And I truly believe that I think this movement that we're all creating out here and these things that we're talking about is the answer to that. It might not be the answer to happiness, but it's definitely the answer to a lot of problems that I see people facing. And every industry that I've went into, I've always looked at the big problems, right? So if you can solve the big problems, then you have something there. And every business is really built from solving problems.
Yeah.
I mean, ultimately,
it's
we're to serve each other, right? And that's why I always, when I get around people, these strange people that think like money is bad and these kind of things, right?
Yeah.
And they have this big issue with money and they kind of think like it's the root of all evil, right?
Yeah.
I just really look at these people and I try to stay away from them, right?
Yeah.
Because ultimately money is an extension of who we are.
Yeah.
And, if you're an awesome person, then you can be a fucking amazing person with a fuck ton of money.
Yeah.
If you're a shitty person, you can become even a shittier person with a fuck ton of money, right?
Magnifier, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, money might be bad for some people. I mean, if you're doing a fuck ton of
you're an
coke,
asshole.
if you're doing cocaine and hookers, and you get a bunch of fucking money, you can do a fuck ton of cocaine and hookers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So money might actually move you into a bad place.
Magnify your problem.
Right. Charlie Sheen, right?
Yeah.
Charlie Sheen without money, he doesn't have hookers.
Yeah, he didn't have all them problems.
He doesn't have all them
Much
problems,
smaller
right?
problems anyway.
Yeah, right. Probably a bunch of smaller problems,
Yeah.
But
He's looking for a small crack rock instead of a big one at that point.
Right.
Or looking for the $20 to get it. That's
Right.
his problem of the day. But, what I want to touch on here real quick is I want the audience to kind of get a feel for the John Highley prior to the John Highley that we see today. You're talking about, there had to be a period where there was turmoil, struggle, stresses, all of that. And there still is, of course. But usually an individual gets to where you're at right now, like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all that, because they've been through something dark. Usually people have to hit a low spot in order to ask themselves those right questions, to really be willing to put in the work and invest into yourself, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so, let's talk about maybe the old version of John Highley that maybe first started getting into business versus at what point did you start taking maybe your own personal emotional state more seriously versus just, a young entrepreneur trying to chase money.
Just like many people in their life in general, I've just had like some crazy fucking ups and downs. I mean, everybody's got a story. And it started out with my wife, who's actually here in the room with us, sitting back there.
Shout out.
Angela. Angela, so a lot of people know.
Well, I would call her the fact checker.
The fact checker.
She
She's
will
my fact
check your
checker.
facts.
So she's probably going to be.
Yeah.
I'm not really that good with fucking memory and shit like that.
Yeah, you're like,
but I know what
99, she's
happened.
like,
I know my
Yeah,
truth, right?
yeah,
I know my truth. And honestly, it all begins with whenever as a kid, I literally grew up around a bad area, and there was a lot of fighting in our town. I mean, there was a lot of crack dealing, and a lot of drugs and things like that. And that was typically the way to come up. So I was a what I like to call a street pharmacist. That's where I started my career. And
how many years of schooling did you go through for that?
It was actually probably much better schooling than I received from school.
I bet.
We even got into that high grade shit, the stuff that has names and all that, and Cannabis Cup winners and all that kind of stuff. And that's back before it was popular, and back before a lot of people knew the difference between like some weed and some really good shit. So I was involved with the growers, and I was involved with we would go to these big festivals and just pick up tons of acid, LSD, mushrooms, all this kind of stuff, and just
sounds like we
sell that
got
shit.
along back in the day, dude.
Oh yeah. So people ask me, they're like, "Have you ever hallucinated before?" I'm like, "Only about 1,000 times."
Yeah.
It's like,
I would
I'm done
say
with that
from
shit now.
95 to 2000.
Yeah. I can even still
Yeah.
remember this day. Like me and my buddies, it's like a cold Ohio day, and we're out by the river, and we're all just tripping our balls off, and we're fucking grabbing these giant rocks and throwing them into the river, and just laughing at them, the ice breaking. And to anybody from the outside looking in would have came by and seen, what the fuck are these guys doing?
What are they on?
And
I need two of
so
whatever
but
they're
it was
taking.
what you did to have fun.
Yeah.
Back when I was a kid, it just didn't seem like there was a lot of shit to do.
Yeah.
And so you'd either get drunk or you would go do a bunch of acid.
Just
and
running around
eat a
with
bunch of
whoever's running
mushrooms and-
around and just kind of joining the crowd.
Yep,
at that
yep,
point,
yep, yep.
right? That's the environment that a lot of people grow with less than. That's
Sure.
their environment. They go outside and run in the streets and hang out with everybody else in the neighborhood, and usually they're not doing the things that they should be doing.
That's
you
true.
know? So
There's always that one weird
Yeah.
friend too that you can really connect with when you're
Yeah.
messed up.
Yeah.
I had one. I had my
Yeah.
buddy Matt growing up. Dude. We used to do weird shit like that.
Yeah.
you still
And-
in contact with the old homies?
Not a lot, man. Some of my friends, I still got some of my friends that are still crack dealers and shit like that from back in the day. And the last time I ran into one of my buddies, me and my wife went over to his house, and he was fighting a case where somebody tried to fucking rob him, and he basically said sparks started flying, meaning he was shooting at him as they was running. And he was the very first person I had ever walked into a living room and seen him loading a gun with a pair of gloves on, you know? And I'm just like, what are you doing, man? He's like, oh, you don't want your fingerprints to get on the bullet casings, right? And he goes, unless it's a revolver, but you still don't want your fingerprints on them in case you drop the revolver, right? And
That's
so
the street lesson 101.
yeah,
Wear gloves.
I like to say that I definitely went through the school of street smarts, and that's what led me into really wanting to be a business owner and led me into wanting to be an entrepreneur because, I mean, that's how I made my money. And ultimately, drugs they do not make you a fucking good salesman. If anybody out there who's listening to me that's dealing drugs right now, you're not a good salesman. Because drugs sell themselves. Fucking people will, people will do anything for them, right? So technically, you're not a good salesman.
Yeah, you don't have to be crafty to sell something.
Yeah, man, you just got to be like, you want some of this, bro? I mean, that's your sales pitch, right?
Yeah.
And
zero rebuttals besides
yeah. But so
go get it.
So ultimately, I ended up, me and my wife ended up having I got her pregnant, and I got out of the whole fucking game, right? I was just away from everybody, and everything I thought was done and over with until the cops basically kicked down my door. They already had an indictment for me. And back when I was, probably 20 years old, I think, they ended up kicking down the door and taking me in for trafficking LSD. I ended up selling to an undercover. And we literally, my son wasn't even born yet. My son was still in her belly. And they actually let me out. They went back and got the indictment, so it takes 9 months. And he was already born at that time, and then came in and arrested me again and took me to jail. And at that time, man, it was early on, and I was facing 10 years in prison because, an Ohio judge in outside of the outer skirts of Dayton looks at LSD as if you give somebody one hit and they're fucking brain dead, right? They look at it as if you're selling some sort of poison that's going to kill people. So ultimately ended up hiring one of the best attorneys. He got it dropped down to the point where I didn't have to do any prison time, but I was able to to get out and be with my family. And I had to do some probation time back in the day and stuff like that. I mean, that's been 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And, man, I hid that shit from the world for a long, long time. Yeah. I got into being a business owner in our local community, and I hid that shit from everybody. I mean, for the longest time, I didn't want anybody to find out about it. And little by little, I started rising up inside of the automotive industry simply by putting YouTube videos out there. And I was putting YouTube videos out there for just strictly the purpose of selling to my clients and customers. I knew YouTube was doing really good back in the day, really good organic traffic, and it was going to show up on Google. So it was just a way to bring clients and customers to me, which was
Did somebody
very, very
recommend
effective.
that to you, or is that just something that you're just like, hey, I need to start doing this YouTube
I just knew
thing?
I was looking ahead of the curve, and
Gotcha.
I knew that YouTube videos, people were already finding me through my website, and back then Google Maps was kind of new. And I was getting a lot of traffic through there. So I wanted to dominate the entire front page of Google. I just seen early on that, Google was the way to go. It was bringing a lot of retail clients to me. So I knew that videos at the time was populating probably a third of the page. And it's not that way anymore, but it used to be when people would Google search, videos would populate a third of the page. And then back then, people were more likely to click a video than to actually click a website link
and read an article or something.
Sure,
shit.
right,
I mean,
right.
It's just more visually stimulating.
So what happened is I started building this cult-like following with people in Ohio where individuals were driving to me, for hours away just to use my services. I mean, I think at the time that it really started happening, it was about when I had about 100 videos uploaded. And we started getting people that would come in and not only watch one of my videos, but they would come to me and be like, dude, I watched them all. They would know shit about my employees, because I would feature them on my videos.
They
would
walk
know
in like they know them. Hey, Brandon.
Yes.
This,
Yes.
And you're
so
like, what the hell?
I seen early on the way the emotional bond that videos created at that time, meaning that when people came in, they literally looked at me. I'd never met them a day in my life, and they would say, John.
They felt like they knew you.
Yes, they felt like they knew me. They had that initial connection. Our videos weren't that good. They were just authentic and they were real. And still today, the authentic and the real videos outperform the very polished ones. I mean, just because people they want to see real. People want to deal with other people in general.
What do you think the statistic is on people that would rather buy or click from a video versus just an image or a
or some copy.
Yeah.
You know, it varies different audience and different industries.
Yeah.
Ultimately,
That's true.
it really depends, and it also depends the content on the video. But I will tell you, almost every industry and every business, if you have testimonial videos, real ones from clients, like not the real polished, shiny ones where you bring in a camera crew and
straight
people
from the
are,
iPhone or something.
yes, like shaky from the client and customer, like people. I mean, it's social proof. It's social proof, and it's authentic, and it's real.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we're all looking for that. We're looking simply, you know, we will go where other people go. I mean, you'll drive by a restaurant in town, you'll see a restaurant over here, and you'll see another restaurant over there, and there'll be 10 cars at this restaurant and no cars at this other restaurant. You're going to go to the one with 10 cars, likely. I mean, some people will go to the other one, but it's very likely most people will go to the one with 10 cars because they feel that these people know something that they don't know.
Right.
And even if you get back to like to our primal state as individuals, we do that as an energy conservation technique.
Basically,
we're always
we don't
trying
have to think about it.
we don't have
let
to think about
somebody
it.
else think about it for us.
Yeah, it's very primal because back in, you know, whatever our caveman days per se, we didn't want to expend a lot of energy because we had to eat to fuel every single day.
Right.
And so our brain operated in that way. You know, it also operated in a way where, you know, don't go down that way. There's danger. You know, if your grandfather said there's a saber-toothed tiger down this trail, the grandfather's going to tell it to the grandson. The grandson's going to tell, you know, to the parent. The parent's going to tell it to the grandson, and it's going to travel, you know, generations.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're still not going to go down that trail because there's a saber-toothed tiger down that trail, right? And but ultimately, we do that to conserve energy. And you've got to understand that in marketing in general. And that's why simplicity and ways that you break up copywriting so it's eye candy, it's not hard to read. You want to appeal in any way that you can help appeal and conserve energy to your end user. You want to do that. And sometimes that energy conservation comes in the form of a video because it explains exactly what the person wants.
Right.
And, you know, it depends industry to industry, but, you know, going real quick, going back to the YouTube videos, and I'll get into this here in a minute. I know you're getting ready to say something, Kale, but I want to go a little deeper into the YouTube videos because ultimately that was the catalyst that opened me into multiple income streams.
So you were doing the one thing for your business.
Correct.
And it was working.
Correct.
And you're like, I could do this for other people.
No. That actually started later on.
That's another facet.
Sure. What I started getting on my YouTube videos, because a lot of them were just before and afters, and some of them were me actually doing the repair in between, because people started going, well, that's bullshit. Nobody can do that, you know, type of repair or something, right? So I started putting shots in between and kind of showing process videos, like actually showing the process videos. And I started getting comments from not just clients and customers, but I started getting automotive technicians from all over the world follow me and comment on these videos. All the way to the points where they started sending me messages. They started, you know, following me on any other platform that I got involved in. I found these automotive technicians were following me everywhere. Some of them were calling our shops and trying to reach out and trying to get me on the phone. And I immediately realized, because at that time I was trying to become better at like video editing and stuff like that, and I was doing it all on my own. You know, I didn't have anybody to help me do that stuff. I had people to help me do the repairs, but I didn't have anybody to help me do that stuff. So I started taking a course on, it was called lynda.com and kelbytraining.com. And I started learning how to do Photoshop. I started learning how to do video editing. I started learning how to run all my Google ads. I started learning everything, you know, pretty much that I needed to successfully run this marketing campaign. And it dawned on me that I needed to create this for the automotive industry because so many people were asking questions.
Right.
So quite frankly, I just got tired of it. I was so busy, you know, when I'm working my business in the day, I'm
answering
editing
the same
videos
over and over and over and over.
And so I wanted to, like, literally, I kind of did it in a way where I could say, okay, well, if these guys are serious, they'll fucking pay for it. You know, and you know, I'm getting, you know, 100 questions. I'm just going to send them a link where they can sign up and they can learn all that they want to learn about this repair, what I did here, or what I did there. And then that was the launch of our educational company. And the educational company that I launched in the automotive industry ended up being the biggest in its niche, and still is. But see, and here's what I'm talking about, my friends, when it comes to the business inside of your business, okay? Because when we launched that into that industry, well, you know, it just went gangbusters. I mean, it went wild. And I basically took
Did you have to spend a bunch of money to get the word out there, or you just already had enough people reaching out to where it was just pretty much like, Here it is.
I barely spent any money at all. And the business fueled itself because we already had a following. I already had people reaching out from all over the world. At that time, Facebook was starting to become popular. Instagram was starting to come along. And it wasn't long that I ended up shifting to all of these places. And I was already building an email list. You see, back in the day, Facebook made it much easier to collect emails and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We were running contests on our Facebook page where we were actually giving away tools to the dent technicians who entered into the contest. Well, these contest apps back in the day that you could plug into Facebook, the company is still
data.
Yeah, and not to mention they also turned on the notifications, right? So even today, the Facebook pages that we have associated with that business are still gangbusters because them people turned on their notifications years ago. And it really set us up for a profitable future.
Yeah.
And we were able to collect all the data and build the lists and just become very disciplined with setting up the systems around that business to continuously bring people back into our funnels. And we did this, the most fucked up thing ever that you can do on YouTube. I mean, YouTube, dude, I've been called a fat piece of shit. And I used to be chubby back then. I'm not that, I'm not as fat now, but I used to be a
Definitely
big old
lean.
boy, right?
Yeah.
And I looked totally different. I had glasses and all that kind of stuff, but people call me like a fat piece of shit because I would do half of the repair and then I would cut it off and say, to learn more, head on over to da. And
They're like getting
you
into
motherfucker,
It. They're vested halfway into,
but let me tell you something. We did that, and them videos got like negative, like down, like whatever, where they give you the down thumb and all that.
yeah.
Like, dude, like some of them videos had thousands of downward thumbs on them, and I still to
sales were
this
good?
day would walk through a conference and people would walk up to me and, dude, you know what they say? You know what got me? Them damn videos you put up there, and you cut them off right when you got to the good part.
Yeah.
They said I would literally have to go and subscribe just to watch the rest of that video to see how you guys did that.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
It worked, even though
Yeah.
you're getting some negative response, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's funny.
So ultimately, and this is why I was telling your audience at the beginning that they were going to learn to find some gold inside of their own businesses. And I really want you guys to understand this because there's things that are, I mean, we were already doing the repairs. I already had a business that was going gangbusters doing the repair work. We just had to film it and narrate it, and then we sold it as another product, right?
Yeah.
So that was a byproduct of what we were currently doing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next step was I'm like, okay, well, if people will pay for this online, let's go ahead and launch a worldwide school, a high-end one where people could pay me $10,000 a week and they could come in and learn from me in person. We launched that and it went gangbusters.
Yeah.
And now get this, my friends, now instead of me doing the repairs, my 1 week students were doing the repairs and I was recording them and displaying them, which led to driving more individuals to come in and do the personal training. It got to the point where I was booked out a solid year for people to come in and work with me one-on-one.
That's impressive.
That's awesome.
So we had this big one-on-one training business going, and then people would get out there and they'd have problems with the tools.
Yeah.
They'd say, man, like I really wish this handle on this tool would move this way or that way, and these kind of things. And I said, yeah, you're right. So I ended up grabbing a piece of a pad and a pen paper, and I ended up drawing what would later become my very first tool set that now has probably about 800 tools in it. And that's when I launched the tactical tool brand.
Yeah.
So a lot of people ask me, they're like, how'd you get into manufacturing, dude? Like you started doing this and, and then you built this thing and then now you're
tools.
and now you're manufacturing something, right? And I said, you know how I got into manufacturing? I literally took a pad and paper. I drew what I wanted. I got in the phone book, and that's back when we used to use the phone book. And I rolled over to the machine shop pages, and where I lived at the time, I live in Dallas now, but I lived in Dayton, Ohio at the time. It's just full of manufacturing companies. Yeah. So I scrolled over to manufacturing in a phone book, and I called the first couple numbers, and I think the second or third one actually answered. And at that point, I talked to the guy and said, hey, can you make me, a tool? And he said, well, yeah, come on down. We'll check it out. So I got in my truck. I drove down there, showed him basically this piece of paper. He said, okay, well, give me the piece of paper.
Yeah.
He went, had the CAD model drawn up, and about 2 weeks later, we had a 3D model. I went in there and did some tweaks, and it probably was 2 weeks later, I had my first prototype in my hand.
Damn.
Again, applying yourself.
Yep.
I mean, that's the thing, man, is like you have this thirst, obviously, to constantly grow. Okay? And I think a lot of times people miss that. They don't understand, like, they just want to hit a point and they just want to be okay and comfortable, right? You're not like that. You're like, I don't want to be comfortable. I always want to know more because I know if I apply myself, there's always going to be these other opportunities and I can continue to grow and I can be more powerful if I continue to grow? And a lot of people miss out on that. But the fact that you will actually put in all the work that you did to go on YouTube and figure it out, and go on, the tool manufacturing, figure it out, and like actually apply yourself, figure out who all these manufacturers are. What are the steps I take to create this, right? Like that's where people miss out. And even if you don't want to do it, like say someone wants to hire us as an accounting firm, right? Like, well, you don't know if we're good or bad because you never apply yourself to actually understand like the foundational stuff of money before you actually hire your accountant. Same thing with like you, like if people want to hire you to do marketing or whatever, it's like, they don't know if you're good or bad unless they actually have some understanding of it. And so I like that you're the type of person, like, dude, you go and geek out and understand all these things about it before you actually move into that direction and start, I don't know, just doing it. So it's pretty cool, man. I appreciate that. That's badass shit.
Well, that's the one piece that most people miss is just doing shit.
Well, and it's not as hard as what everybody thinks that it is.
Well,
it's not as hard.
Well, their brain likes to make it out to be.
Sure.
The reason why that happens is so that you could talk yourself out of doing it and not feel bad about it.
But we do that as a protective mechanism. Not only are we conserving our energy, right, of course, but we're also protecting ourselves as to like what people will say. Right. I mean, people are so worried about what other people are going to say if they try something and they fail. Yeah. And the truth of the matter is that, gosh, most people, man, if you come out and you try something and you fail and you just be honest about it and you talk about it, it's a fucking superpower. People love that. They love that vulnerability.
Well, they gravitate towards it because there's everybody's failed.
Yeah.
So there's common ground there.
Well, I mean, even going back to my story of trafficking LSD and having the cops kick in my doors, right? There was a certain time in my life where I just no longer could hold it in anymore. I said, I mean, it was like literally plaguing me. I was wondering every day, what if people found out? What if people knew this thing about me and felt that I was dishonest because I never talked about it and I never told anybody about it? Yeah. So by the time I had an audience and I had people listen to our podcast, and you guys are going to believe this, but in our industry, like our podcast had, it was close to, I think we were on episode, the one that I sold, we were on episode 100, and we already had 250,000 downloads on that podcast. Yeah. I mean, it was.
How much did you sell it for? Was it a decent chunk or nothing? Crazy?
No. Yeah. It was I sold it to get my investment back. I paid for the whole thing, and we had a bunch of other podcast members, and we paid for the whole thing. And it wasn't like I wanted to gouge the guys that I was friends with. So I really sold it for just hey, I said, hey guys, just give me what I've got in it, and I want you guys to take it from here because we ended up launching another podcast that did really well. And it went more along the line with my tool line and all the stuff that I was doing. And I just didn't like meeting up with 5 different people every week. It was very hard to coordinate our schedules. And to be quite frank, I just wasn't even showing up anymore. Yeah. So it got to the point where I owned everything, and I just let the guys have it.
Yeah. Gotcha. So when we were talking yesterday, and you're like, "Hey, man, I still get that mailbox money from something that I used to do." That's the tool stuff. So because you sold your rights to that, and you get a little percentage or a piece, or how does that work?
I get a pretty good percentage of it. Okay. And basically what that is, that's a licensing deal. Right. So when we first started manufacturing the tools, we were manufacturing them all in-house, or not in-house, but we were manufacturing very near our facility. Yeah. And we were bringing them to our facility, and then we were moving them to be engraved, so it would go to like a laser engraver. And then at that point, we were still kind of manufacturing them in-house because we were putting them together, we were boxing them, we were shipping them. We were also adding like the rubber handles on the end of them, So there was a little bit of a manufacturing piece that we were doing in-house as well before we were shipping them. And at that time, I ended up getting like a 6,000 square foot facility, and we were shipping, sending, and we were also building all these other different tools other than just a big line of tools. And to be honest with you, I just got kind of tired of it. I was just like the day-to-day on that, and the shipping and the logistics and all that kind of stuff was just mad. And me being the marketer, I like to run things with urgency and scarcity. So I would literally shut off my tool line sales and tell everybody that, hey, these are gone, and when they come back, I'll let you know. And so I would make people wait, and then when I launched them, I would launch 1,000 of this, 1,000 of that, and I would just sell them out in 7 days, 8 days, and then we would re-up again, and we would do that over and over again. But nobody knew when I was going to be launching my tools because it was only during the times that I had time to do it. Right. And so it got to the point where it was like, I was staffing up, and then I was, letting people go, and then I was, it was just very yo-yo. It was just part of the business that we were making a lot of money doing it, but I actually had a company reach out that I was already selling. They were my only distributor. I'm real particular on who I'll work with. Right. And there was a lot of people that reached out to me, and I wouldn't allow them to carry my tools. simply because I just was very particular with who carried it, who I worked with, and I've always been like that. I've always wanted, good alignment.
Right.
And if I didn't have the right alignment with the individuals, I didn't want to work with them. And it didn't matter. Like, to me, the money thing, it doesn't matter as much as the type of people that I want to work with, the type of people I want to surround myself with, and the type of people that I'll do business with. So the individuals who were the biggest company currently, I believe, in the world distributing tools in the automotive industry in that niche, reached out to me and asked me to go into a licensing deal with them during COVID, I think 2020. And thought about it for a little while, and I just went with it. And since then, we have been essentially getting just mailbox money from that. So they do all the manufacturing. They ship it right out of here in Burleson, Texas. And the family is just, they're family to me. They really are. I mean, we go on trips together.
Okay, you guys have a good working relationship.
We go on
then.
trips together. When we would fly down here to Burleson, Craig Dyer is his name, and Lisa, his wife Lisa, they would literally say, John, they have like this ranch up here outside of Texas, like this beautiful house that they built and a pond and all this. He'd tell me, and I was still leery about this. He'd say, John, he goes, I'm twisting your arm. You're staying with us this time. You're staying at our house. And finally, I agreed.
I hate that.
Yeah. But now,
I like my own space.
Yeah,
dude.
see,
I'm
me
like,
too.
dude, like even when
Me
I go
too.
visit family up in Salt Lake or something, they're like, stay.
Yeah.
I'm just like,
me too, until I
I'll
stayed
stay
there
at a hotel.
once.
Yeah.
They literally had their place set up like an Airbnb, man. We had like our own coffee machine. We had the whole upper floor. We had our own towels, our own bathroom, our
And is
own
this factual?
everything.
And a fact checker says yes. It's
Yeah,
factual.
and it's just like there was nothing awkward about it. It was like, hey, we got your favorite drinks in the fridge. If you guys need us, let us know. And there was just nothing awkward about it, and it was great. So I mean, that's how close we are to the family that I work with, and it's just I'm very protective over the people I work with, and I'm very protective with the people I'll surround myself with. And still to this day, he's one of my top counselors. I'm getting ready to do this big charity event coming up here in Dallas, where I'm going to try to get more gifts for Dallas children than anybody ever has, right?
Yeah.
And I was stressing about it. I'm doing the deal with them, and we're going to be doing it at their facility. And I was stressing how I was going to tier it, how I was going to launch it, and all this. And I get on the phone with old Craig, and Craig just like, John, he goes, why don't you just make it about just take a donation, and if a guy can only donate a little bit of money, then let him in the contest, and if he ends up winning something, then he does. And I'm just like, motherfucker, man, I'm overcomplicating something that I should have just
open it up.
Yep. So I like to surround myself with people that are like that, man, that give
Simplify
me
shit.
good,
Just do
wise counsel.
Yeah.
And
So how does a licensing deal work? Is that like we don't know a whole lot. We don't know a whole lot about licensing deals, but is that like, when you do that, is that like a 5-year thing or a 10-year, or is it a forever deal, or can there be a licensing deal for a year and then you could renegotiate, or how does all that work?
So this deal is a forever deal, is the way that we set it up.
Okay.
I really don't know. This is my very first licensing deal that I was involved with, and
so far so good though.
So far so good. So what we do is we actually, once they make the product, we get a percentage of the retail cost of the product. So give you guys an example. Let's just say your retail cost of the product is like $250. Okay, the cost to get that thing to market is probably 50%. At the end of the day, and so if you get 5 to 10% of that, you're literally getting 10 to 20%.
Right.
On a licensing deal.
End deal.
Yes.
Yeah, of what's left.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So they can be negotiated that way, or it can also be negotiated where you get a percentage of the profit. And we just went to make it very simple. We just went with a percentage of the actual. I don't really want to say numbers because I don't know the deals they have out there, and I don't want to if somebody listens to this podcast.
I mean, we don't need to go pull the contract out and read the fine details or anything. But which I would like that more anyways, because if it's a percentage of profits could always be skewed.
Exactly.
Right? Like, but if it's a price point of something that's $200, it's just always going to be $200 or potentially increase in price. Right. And so it protects you to not have to sit there and look at their books. Like, are you putting money in other areas to show that you're not making as much, so you don't have to kick me back as much? It just makes it a lot more transparent, it seems like, to do a deal like that.
It does.
And
it does.
And if they were open to do a deal like that, that's probably the type of people you want to do a deal with.
That's the type of people you want to do a deal with. And I mean, and every product they actually add to that line, I get a 50% of our original licensing deal.
Right.
Okay.
So as they add products, and they're always adding products to the line,
So you're not having to stress about all that, but yet
Yep.
you're still, that product came on the back of this product. And
Correct.
so, gotcha.
Correct. So that's how the tool thing went down, right?
Okay.
And which I'm very happy with the licensing deal. I mean, I just don't have to stress over anything anymore. And man, I don't know if you guys know this, but man,
Except for
you're
walking to the mailbox.
well,
and
yeah,
taking
yeah.
the money to the bank. Yeah. Traffic. You know how I feel
Yeah,
about that, dog.
right,
Taking
right.
that check in.
Yeah, that's
So-
right. That's right. So we went on, I figured like this. I figured, okay, well, I'm already training them how to do the repairs, right?
Yeah.
And I'm teaching them one-on-one, so we get that more exclusive type product, almost like an exclusive one-on-one coaching program, right? Where I would bring in 2 or 3 people at a time. And then we got the next level where I'm giving them the tools, right? So I'm teaching them how to do it. Now I'm giving them the tools. And I'm like, well, we've done an extremely job, if not probably one of the best companies in the world marketing our business, especially when it comes to the retail end client. A lot of people back then were using this business in a wholesale environment where they were working with, automotive dealers, they were working with automotive body shops, and they were really working through like a middleman or something like that. Well, I went straight to the top, and I actually started marketing directly to the clients and customers. Using techniques that any service-based business can actually use. This is what later on turned into the Marketing Savage. But I said, well, we're training them how to do it. We're giving them the tools how to do it, selling them tools. Why not go ahead and have an event to teach them how to market their business?
Right.
So we ended up opening up the Mega Media Event, which is now going to be dubbed the Savage Media Event. And we had 5 events where we brought people in from all over the world. I'm talking about people would fly in from Australia, people would come in from Canada, people would fly in from Japan.
Just to attend the event?
Just to attend the event.
Okay.
Just to attend the event. And the event tickets weren't cheap. Our event tickets are $3,000 a ticket to get into that event. But what we would actually do is we would bring in Lamborghinis. We would bring in Teslas with the gull wing doors. We would bring in old cars, like old Firebirds, like
just
Burt
for
Reynolds.
The vibe or what?
No, we would actually bring them in, and what we would do is we would do a photo and video shoot with the technicians, and we would actually, by the time they left our event, they would have all the content to rebrand their company.
Right.
So they would leave there with, and our photographer is still the best in the world, David Ricketts. I mean, he could set up photography. It takes him 2 or 3 hours to set up a scene, but in the middle of the day, in the sunlight, he could set up all these. We would buy in fucking cranes and shit. I was insuring his stuff for like a couple $100,000 to be shipped out to us and shipping it on a pallet. And we would literally put up cranes around these cars. And the way that we would shoot the photography, all the lights would hit at the exact same time and could take, like, literally in a parking lot in the middle of a sunny day, turn it into a cinematic fucking, like, some of the most beautiful photos that you've ever seen, where the car is glowing but the background is dark. And just the way this guy could angle all these lights. And so we would actually fly him in to do our photography, and then we would have a videographer do all of our video work. And by the end of the event, we would have
telling them you just had an itinerary. Like, first we need to do this, then this, then this, then this.
Yep.
And you would bring them to the event and make sure that they go through kind of that list to rebrand and market themselves.
Yep. Everybody would get tags at the events, and when they came in, they would get put in an itemized order. And then from there, as we're doing the marketing training, so we would have an event at the same time. We'd bring in marketers and people speakers, and I was speaking during the event. And at that time, like our coordinator who we brought on would grab somebody out of the audience and say, hey, it's your turn. And they would go take photos and videos on this car, photos and videos on that car. And then we would have an office set up where we could do the kind of like a talking head type interview. But it was like the videos and the content we put together was so fucking cinematic. I mean, almost to the point to where you would watch a video and it would bring a tear to your eye. To the point to where we had to the marketing.
Telling them to be vulnerable or what?
Well,
like,
no, we would just talk about we would ask them questions and we would cut it in and we would put in scenes of the cars and stuff like that and blend all that stuff in at the end. Man, they'd just be like, man, I love my job. And the right music and the right tone and all that. I mean, you would feel that like the person loves his fucking job. He's an artist. He's a craftsman, somebody who works on these cars, right?
Right.
And you need to convey that to the customer.
You've got to convey that to the client customer because, look, man, you can buy a cigarette or you can buy a Cuban cigar. I mean, they both got fucking nicotine in them, right? Yeah. If the client doesn't know the fucking difference, man, that's the key. I mean, either you're a commodity or you're not. If
or
you
can get
cannot,
some Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Wintergreen long cut.
Right. Or you can get, I'm sure there's a shitty brand, right?
Yeah.
Grizzly.
Grizzly. There you
Y'all
go.
chewing Grizzly out there. Get your shit together.
Yeah,
was
man.
chewing
You're
Grizzly
like
there for a
fucking
minute.
Joe Dirt in the trash can he gets left at the.
Hey, bro. I probably looked worse than Joe Dirt at one point.
Dad, there's
in my
Copenhagen,
life,
not no
bro.
pussy skull,
no,
right?
So
Let me ask
So-
you this, just for selfish question here. How many people were coming to these events? How hard
We-
was it to
100.
work through that many people? Was it hard?
It was hard at the very first events because we did everything fucking wrong. Like
Yeah.
at the very first events, we allowed
Seems
people
like 100 people would take me like
oh my
10
god,
days to
dude!
get through,
At the,
bro. Like 10 a day.
dude, at the
Yeah.
very first events, man, we would let people sit behind the fucking camera scene, and then we next thing you know, be like, motherfuckers' heads in the shot, and so we would have to send them off. Like we ended up hiring a team of like editors and shit like that, and we had to do a bunch of fucking editing, but we learned, right?
Yeah.
So we took all this information back, we made it all right, and we, with Photoshop and all that shit, man, you can do anything nowadays, but it took a lot of fucking time. I mean, and the first event, like I was involved in a lot of that
Yeah.
shit, but I'm learning, right? The whole time I'm like, okay, we'll never do that fucking again.
Yeah.
We're going to make sure it's this way. So as the events went, they just got easier and they flowed much better. And we knew like, dude, you step in the fucking photo shot, we're going to fucking murder you. Like I literally, because people wouldn't fucking listen, I got this friend named Trey Scott, and this dude, he stands like 6'5". He weighs probably roughly about 280 pounds. He's fucking basically built like a bodybuilder, but
So
he
it
does
looks similar
jujitsu.
to me.
But yeah,
So
yeah.
if you guys want a visual representation,
But he does
just
like
think
he
of-
does jujitsu, and he's
Yeah.
he's one of the baddest motherfuckers I know. We would bring Trey in and say, "You stand over here. Don't let anybody pass it." He said occasionally he'd see people just walk up like they were gonna walk past him, and they'd look at him and be like, "Fuck that," and turn around and just walk
I'll
away.
go the long way.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Because Trey would just look at him like,
Come
"You
on,
really
bro."
think you're gonna walk past me, bro?"
Yeah.
And we would let him know, be like, he's gonna tackle you and tickle you.
Yeah.
That's what's gonna happen in front of everybody. This big motherfucker, if you guys walk past that line, he's gonna tackle you and tickle you.
Yeah, he's gonna make you look dumb twice. He's gonna tackle you, and then you're gonna giggle like a little girl
So-
on the ground.
So we got feedback from every event. At the first event, we didn't sell 100. We sold probably like 50, 60 tickets. And so we would get feedback, right? And we just kept refining the process until we had it down. And we got to the point where I didn't have to I'd walk in, man. We already had our photo people set up. We already had our fucking Dropbox folders laid out and how they're going to go in there. We had a set up secondary hard drive to make sure we fucking never lost any data in between transfers. And I mean, we had all these systems set up to where when we showed up at the event, we just did our shit. Went back to the hotel, got pumped and primed up, right, for some of the shit that we would do. So what we did was we figured, okay, well now let's take a step back. Let's take a step back for everybody in their business who wants to find gold in their business, okay? Yeah. So I was already doing the repairs. I started recording the repairs and started selling it online. We took the online shit and ended up bringing people in person to teach them in person, a higher end service, right? Whale hunting per se. The next level was we built the tools for them. The next level was we started marketing for them. We said, well, you know what? If we got all their content, I bet we could get somebody to build us some software so we could build their websites. So that's where moving into the software business came in.
Yeah.
So when we're at these events, we're like, hey guys, we already got your content. How would you like to just swap it out and have your website look like brand new? Have your videos put on there, all of these other things. And we started selling all of our software in the industry. Not only to people that attended the events, so we started bringing in almost like models that would come into our photo shoots, and we would have stock photos that we could use for clients that didn't attend. Mm-hmm. And then we would push the new clients with the stock photos on their websites to attend the next event, because now we can swap out the stock photos and put photos in for you. So we started creating templates inside of that industry for clients that were buying them, and now we're outperforming everybody. Yeah. Because we've got all the content. We've got control of all the content. Yeah. And so we were always thinking like 2 steps ahead, right? And at the last event, before the whole COVID shit happened, I think that was in 2019, was in Denver, Colorado, sold out crowd, 100 people sold out. I ended up going up and pitching the website, and 50% of the crowd already owned it because, again, they already bought that year and they were coming to our event, right? Yeah. And the other 50% of the crowd didn't own it. And I stood up there and pitched and sold the crowd, almost 99% of the crowd, all except for one guy, fucking bought the websites. So literally everybody in that whole audience bought our websites and bought into our systems. So we had 100% of the room sold.
That's unheard of.
And the second day, so you always drop your sales on the second day of an event, of a 3-day event, and you always want to drop it before lunch because you want them to mingle with the crowd. You want the crowd to raise their hands. How many of you guys own the website? Everybody raise their hands. Then you start preaching to them like everybody owns the website. So what happens is people, believe it or not, have peer pressure at that point.
You're gonna tell them what the who has it. They raise their hands. Well, what you're gonna see, if you probably already know.
Yes.
This, and then
you start talking to the crowd as if everybody owns it,
Yeah.
and they start feeling left out. And what happens is people come to us at that lunch break, and they're just like, dude, sign me up. I want part of this. I want in on this,
Yeah.
And we ended up selling, except for one guy. And the funny thing is, he's a real good friend of mine named John Highley. And John's like always drunk at these events. He's like the happiest drunk ever, though, and he's just fucking funny as fuck, and he's drunk as shit all the time. And he comes up to me that night, and the second day or third day, we pitched the mastermind at lunch again. We always pitch before lunch. Yeah. Most people make the mistake of doing their pitch at the fucking end of the event, the last fucking thing you tell them. Yeah. Nobody wants to think about that shit when they're jumping on a plane. Do it before lunch, and they'll mingle with the crowd and mingle with you and rub elbows with you.
Yeah.
So the whole technique of pitching this, the before the last day was that I'm rubbing elbows. So all of a sudden, John Highley comes up to me. He's the one guy that didn't fucking buy a website out of everybody in the whole event, and he goes, "I want to join that mastermind." And he's drunk as shit, and I'm like, "John, are you sure, man? I mean, the mastermind's expensive, And he's like, I don't care if I'm sleeping on the couch, He goes, "I've thought about it long enough." Swipes his credit card right there.
He might sleep on the couch anyways, pass out drinking.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm selling my bed. I don't need it. I'll sleep on the couch.
What do? We created a mastermind. So all of this stuff led into, that business led into multiple business, one income stream after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next. And then what did that lead into? I'm like, man, all these years of doing all of this stuff, and actually me marketing the way that I had to bring people into our subscription company. I think we ended up at 12,000 members, at the height of it, and bringing that many people into our subscription company, I learned how to basically take an individual and turn them into an influencer. Like I created a system where people who want to influence and dominate their market, they want to become an individual in their market that stands out. Like I know all of the fucking ways. I've tested every single way. So that's where the Marketing Savage brand was built. And my ultimate passion is working with people who want to leave a legacy, people who want to, let's just say you're an accountant and you want to be the influencer inside of the accounting industry, and you want people to know you like we know the recipe. I mean, it's going to take fucking work on the individual's behalf, right? That's the one thing I got to sit down and tell everybody, be like, it's going to take work. I mean, unless you want to hire me for way more than you can probably afford. Yeah. It's going to take some fucking, a lot of work.
Got to be involved.
Well, that's how you know you're actually working with someone legit, bro. Yeah. All the stuff out there that's like, I'm going to make your life easier. Like, which is weird because that's our company name, but but you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do nothing. Let us handle it. Like, dude.
Well, even
like,
with
you're
us,
trying to build something. It's going to take work.
Also, though, the difference between what we do and what a lot of places do. So a lot of people are like, join my mastermind, and we'll teach you how to do it. But then you got to go hire somebody to build it, and you got to hire somebody to create it for you, right?
Then you
so it's like double the fucking work or triple the work. We do actually remove a lot of that work by building the whole fucking system out for them.
That makes sense.
We build the subscription sign up deal. We build the fucking all of their funnels. We create their podcast. We build the hook. We even create the. I like to use Zach Babcock when they get really deep into the podcast stuff, but we can get it fucking set up for them. We can get their logos made. We can get, all the little shit done. We can teach them how to do it. We can find their angle, find their hook.
That's a lot easier than you trying to find a website guy, than a marketing guy,
correct,
than a podcast, or whatever.
So essentially, we take all that weight off their shoulders and put it on ours, and we fucking build the whole thing out. So that way, not only do we build out their emails, we build out the right type of email sequences when people land on their lead magnets. That will lead into
is that like a monthly fee, or is that like a one-time?
It's a monthly fee.
Okay, so is there a one-time and then a monthly fee, like an upfront? Hey,
we do have folks that want to buy stuff a la carte, and sometimes people, like, I'll do a project and I'll quote like 3 months at this cost. Like normally I'll quote the whole project out and I'll say, well, if we divide it into 3 months or 4 months or however long it's going to take, this is what we're going to have at the end of 3 or 4 months. You're going to pay this much money for this many months. Gotcha. I do get some clients that need ongoing management who just want us to manage it all the fucking time. They want us to. I mean, they need a new funnel built every month.
Yeah, you take them as far as they want, and then some people want more.
Yeah.
And then some people are like, I think I can take it from here.
Sure.
4 months, 5,
And
6
sometimes
months into
it's
it.
more expensive up front. It really depends on what they want. It's very hard for me to give like a general quote.
course.
It's really depends on their industry, what they want, what we've got to do to make it happen. And we essentially, sometimes it starts out a little bit higher and then it tapers down to like a maintenance cost. Or there's other times it just tapers down to, hey, we're going to teach you how to do it. If you really, if you're ambitious and you want to learn how to do it, our systems, the way that our systems are built, we can really teach people how to
you
do
can
it.
Empower them.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean that's.
And
really
I always
what
say, like, I hope to one day that you make enough money from this that you can pay us to take it over again.
Right.
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 I mean, that's our ultimate goal, is to make people money.
Yeah.
how
keep
many
a customer.
how many websites online do you think are actually built properly for monetization that exist on the internet right now? Like, would you say
maybe
probably
2%?
2% are built accurately with the marketing in mind prior to the build.
Yeah, and a lot of them that are built with the marketing in mind may not have some of the other shit, built out correctly.
Okay.
Just some of the things like the metrics of like Google speed test. I mean, you want the website to be really fast, and to believe it or not, if your website is slow, that also raises the price of your ads as well. And on Facebook, they actually count that against you as far as user experience goes.
Upload like within like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, you start getting penalized or docked or something like that.
So there's a lot of little things that we like to encompass in everything that we do. I mean, there's just small shit, like for instance, like people will send bulk emails, but they'll use the email that they actually use day to day. And I'm like, don't ever fucking do that.
Yeah.
You do want to create an email that has domain authority. You don't want to use a Gmail because that will automatically get you flagged and put in, spam promotional boxes and all that shit. So you want to use one that has good domain authority, like Kale at Easier Accounting, but you don't want to use Kale at Easier Accounting because that's the one you use every day. You want to use create one like info or help or something like that at Easier Accounting.
Whatever.
And you want to set that on the back end of your from emails.
Right.
And there's different things that you got to do. Like when you write the copy for an email, you don't want it to be real fucking salesy because the spam filters will pick that shit up.
Right.
And they'll put you in either the promotional box or, God forbid, the spam box.
Right.
And there's so many little things that you do when creating these marketing campaigns that make a big difference. And you just don't want your shit to be too salesy anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
Most of our call to
actions,
our call to actions are like, hey, if you're not ready now, I completely understand. I just hope you got a lot of value out of this email. But if you are ready, here's a link for you. Come check it out.
Yeah.
The idea is just to be giving value more so than selling.
Correct.
And then by default, you're building the authority. Now they look to you for information, and it's a lot easier for them to want to do business with you, and you're not sitting there trying to sell yourself on how great you are. They already know how great you are.
Correct. Because people love to buy, but they hate to be sold.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you've really got to structure everything like that because ultimately, even your emails that go out, a lot of times we'll only put the call to action in the PS.
Yeah.
Hey, PS, man, we got this, cool mastermind that we're going to be dropping here pretty
it's an
soon. If you want to sign
afterthought.
up for the list, we can reach out and help you out and maybe give you some info on it. Click here.
I mean, dude, all my years of being a salesman, okay, it's been a long time now.
Yeah.
You know what works best is education-based selling. Like, dude, when you're actually excited and passionate about something, like all your projects or like all the stuff I do, it's like, oh man, you can save all this money in your business by switching to an S corp and then having your whole structure like this, and you start educating them on how to do it, and they're just like, dude, will you just do it for me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's got to be that way kind of in your email content too. Like, oh, I'm so excited to share with you all this stuff. Here's why it all works. Here's a demonstration or whatever it is. And then it's like, by the end of it, they're like, dude, I'm going to click the link and see if I can just do it for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
And once we bring them into the ecosystem, when you get everything set up in like one centralized system like we do, most of our shit, like when we take over other people's systems, they got shit everywhere. Like, we're working with some clients right now that just have shit everywhere. It's like, okay, like I'm doing my emails from Kajabi, but yet I've got another email account where we're doing some of them from, and then I've got some of my funnels built on my website, but the other ones are built out on this new thing that I tried, and I got my forms over. Like, it's just scattered everywhere. So how do you collect the data on that, right? So one of the very first things that we do is we actually rebuild everything that they have inside one centralized system. Right. So that way we've got levers. That we can look at. We can actually move them up and down. We can get the metrics. And then we start doing things like coding the whole thing up with the Facebook pixels so we understand what page the people are landing on and which ones they're deploying on, or did they just look at the front end of the lead magnet, or did they go to the thank you page? Yeah. And everything that we have has a thank you page. You know, like if they're filling out an application, something like that, it goes to a thank you page. We even got it to the point where, for instance, like if somebody signs up for a coach, a lot of times we'll do like a free discovery call or a 15-minute strategy call or a 30-minute strategy call. When they click on the link for the strategy call, a little box will pop up, you know, name, email, phone number, right? And it'll say step 1. And when they click that, we'll use sticky content to go to the second one, which is the full application. So that way we can qualify them. When they go in to click on the full application, that would actually go to a page that will give them a phone number that's linked inside of the CRM where they can call and leave a message to get to the top of the line. So what we're doing is we're creating, you know, kind of like hot to really fucking hot to on fire leads. Yeah. So we're understanding the ones that are on fire, the ones that leave the messages as the very last step are the ones that are absolutely on fire. The ones that just fill out the first level of contact information and don't fill out the application are just, you know, they're warm. We can still contact them, still reach out to them, you know. Right. The ones that just fill out the application but don't call the phone number, they're right there in the middle. Yeah. You know, the conversion will actually be higher.
Maybe they're in the middle.
But that also gives a hierarchy once we get, you know, we've got clients that get, you know, 70, 80 every time they drop a link. Right. People applying for their mastermind. Right. And that gives you a hierarchy for your sales staff to work through. You're going to work through the top people first, right? Right.
So you don't do it just only for masterminds. You do it for any business, but also a lot of people that start masterminds reach out to you to help systemize and basically build something to where all the data goes in there and then the whole system to follow up. And
you know, and everything runs automatically. And what we do through the systems, we actually segment every single customer, tag them and untag them. Right. Meaning, so as they're going through there, they're getting tags, and then what we do is we ignite the email sequences based on the tags. Right. So, for instance, if somebody gets into some sort of email sequence that's based on this one offer and they buy that offer, they're going to get tagged with something else and go into a different email sequence. You know, maybe they'll just get dumped into like what we call evergreen, which means that
you're just nurturing it until something else.
Well, even if they're clients, you still want evergreen emails going out weekly, you know, giving them value and stuff like that.
Yeah. You're gonna love us, dude, because you know we are kind of that client where you're like, dude, it's all scattered out, right? And we need it all in a centralized place with the levers, you know.
Well, it's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful thing when you get that control over your business. I mean, it's exactly what we're talking about here is being able to look line by line through your business and find out how you can create compounding effect.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where you've got to move the dials in your business. I mean, I did a whole tutorial inside of Apex Executive. And went over exactly how them compounding lines work. And I mean, you can grow your business by 200% if you just understand your numbers. Yeah. And
well, when we started, obviously the podcast and Real Business Owners, I mean, we didn't think it would turn into like a mastermind and events and things like that. But dude, we keep getting asked for it. And we're like, hey, you know, like it's almost like our duty to go out and do this and go down this road. And just so people know that are listening, like John didn't come out here just for the podcast. Like we're walking through this whole system with him and to kick off. Like we've been telling people on our podcast, like, guys, it's coming. And now that we have leaders in place and we have more time to focus on it, it's like, dude, we only want the best people to come over here and help us build this thing and have it more streamlined for not just for us, but for the people that do come into our ecosystem, that they have the best possible system and experience, and they're going to get the most out of it as well. And so, I mean, I just wanted people to know that, like, you're here to help us build our shit too, you know? And so we're not just bringing you a guy that just, you know, talks really well. Like we've seen him do it. Yeah. And that's why we're hiring him to do it.
We didn't bring him here just for his beefy arms and good looks, you know, and to just chat. You know, there's some business that needs to go down, you know, over the next few days, and he's going to spend some time with us. And
guys,
you know, we definitely appreciate it. That's for sure.
What you're building here for your audience is incredible, man. I just couldn't think of two better dudes to be part of this with. And for your audiences out there listening to this, man, I owe all of my success to hiring people. And you guys are going to probably laugh about this, but my very first business coach that I hired was $60,000 a year. And at the time, it was a stretch for us. Like I was reading all these books.
As
it was
it
basically,
should be, though.
I was
because it makes you take it that much more serious,
man.
And if you had endless amounts of money, then you probably wouldn't need a coach.
Exactly.
Why hire a coach if you just have millions of dollars?
It was this stretch. Like I had to go talk to my wife, and he was such a masterful closer, and he taught me so many fucking amazing lessons that he actually closed her over a Facebook message. Yeah. And
facts.
Yeah, he did. And it's still to my
You're doing good on this episode, right?
in my time. Yeah, he's and he would actually fly in quarterly as well. We'd create the quarterly plan, and he was one of the most brilliant copywriters that I had ever met. He had been part of the Blue Blocker campaign from back in the day, part of like Icy Hot. And I mean, some of the stuff that like really caught on fire. I mean, you don't realize this, but Icy Hot, for instance, they started selling that on the radio back in the day, and they were literally giving the radio stations $20 to sell one $5 bottle of Icy Hot. And they knew that the actual the average cart value, so especially the lifetime value of that client, was going to be over that much. I mean, they had a mailing sequence where they would mail that in. They would try to upsell them.
A lot of people don't understand this part about business, though.
Yeah,
they look at
the long term.
Exactly, they look at the long term, but some people look at the short term.
Yeah,
if they spend $10 and they only get $5 back, that's a bad thing in their eyes because they're looking at right now.
Correct.
Right? Rather than getting people in your ecosystem and then looking at the LTV, lifetime value of the customer, right?
That's right. But ultimately, to your audience, man, y'all just got to know, I mean, when you surround yourself with other entrepreneurs, especially at the level that I know you guys are going to bring into the table, I mean, you have no choice but to level up. You have no choice but to become better. Like, I owe a lot of my success and growth in business and life with surrounding myself with the right type of mentors and coaches. And it's not no bullshit, my friends. Like, any of you guys out there who are probably sitting there listening, thinking, who have never hired your first coach, who have never joined your first mastermind, you guys that think that it's bullshit are going to be stuck where you're fucking at for a long time.
Yeah, I
mean,
that's self-sabotage, right?
Well,
like they're gonna come up with something.
Well, it is
to
scary.
talk themselves. Of course it is.
Like what you said,
You
you are forcing yourself to level up. Like that alone is scary to people when it gets close. They're like, oh my gosh, like it's when you're feeling like you're forced because of that decision you made to align yourself with all these people is like forcing you to level up. Sometimes it's a little scary. You're like, fuck.
It all goes back to nature, my friend.
Yeah.
Like literally a seed cannot grow on the concrete. It just can't.
Yeah.
You throw a seed on the concrete, you got to put the seed in the right environment. And that's a growth hack. A growth hack is to put yourself in an environment of people that are achieving, even doing better than you.
Yeah.
And be vulnerable, be giving.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Would you run faster if there was a bear chasing you or nothing chasing you?
You know the fucking answer to that.
Exactly.
Hey, let me answer that. Let me answer that with this.
Because there's fear involved. So
Yeah.
the reason why I said that is because fear isn't necessarily a bad thing. Right. So you were scared spending the 60 grand because that fear helped you run a little bit quicker or do the things that you needed to do to get the result that you needed to recoup that investment. But if there was not that fear there, you maybe wouldn't be running as fast, or taking it as seriously, right?
I was going to answer that question with, does a bear shit in the woods and wipe his ass with a white fluffy rabbit? You're damn right he does.
I haven't seen it, but I wouldn't dispute it if it comes out of Highley's mouth. He's a fucking smart guy.
He has seen it
he's
when he was on acid down at the river.
That was the LSD days. He's seen that shit.
Yeah. So, the thing is, man, is that the day after I spent that amount of money, dude, I jumped out of bed. Yeah. It was like something ignited inside of me, there's a giant inside of all of us, man. You know what I mean? There's a fucking giant inside of everybody out there that's just waiting to come out. Yeah. And a lot of times we almost got to paint ourselves in a corner to the point to where we have to make it happen.
Where it almost has no choice.
I mean, we just did it. Like we literally right now, as we speak, like in the last week and a half, walked from about $4 million a year of our revenue, total revenue, because these accounts weren't serving us anymore. And it was like, okay, our leaders are in place. We have to walk from all this business. It's not serving us, doesn't align with us anymore. And it's literally putting us in a position where it's like, okay, it's time to go. It was all perfect timing for you coming out here too as well. But it's like, dude, we're walking from some comfort. Yeah. We're walking from some comfort to go to the next level, So
well, yeah, and that's another lesson for people, listening is like not all money's good money. You know what I mean? If it comes with headache, chaos, stress, of course there's gonna be that in business in general, right? But it shouldn't necessarily come from the people that you're doing business with if it's like B2B, right? Now, in terms of B2C, consumers, you're going to have some people that, there's Karens, the Karens of the world.
Sure.
That you'll just never be able to make happy. That's just reality. But if you have the opportunity and you're financially okay enough to say, you know what, we don't align. You know, I don't want to be associated with you anymore. Cut it off.
Yeah.
Cut it off. And it's okay to take a hit because we've talked about, well, long term, is that who we really want to do business with? No. Mm-mm. You know, if we don't align, we don't have the same core values, and it just doesn't make sense anymore, you have to have some of those difficult conversations with yourself and be okay taking a step backwards at times in business.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. Just like we talked about an offer. You spend 10 and you only got 5 back, but what's the lifetime value? Mm-hmm. You're taking a step back initially to set yourself up for something greater later, right? And that's exactly what we're doing in our business. But it's like Kale said, it's going to cost $3 or $4 million in top line revenue, which is probably at least $1 million.
I did the same thing this year,
something like that. And as you elevate in business, you'll realize, you know, you're going to value relationships a little bit more, and you want those relationships to be relationships that you actually care to do business with, rather than just doing business just to earn money, right?
Well, the problem is, or the thing is, that you elevated as human beings and as an organization as whole, and they didn't elevate; they stayed the same. So you were able to serve each other back then, but because you guys are always climbing and becoming better, you're going to have some clients that just stay exactly the same, right? So they still are doing the same shit they were doing when you first met them. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? But you guys have changed, and a lot of times that actually relates to people in our life. Yeah. So there's people in our life that we've got to leave at some point. And I always say we don't have to throw them away, but just like an elevator to the top, sometimes you got to let people off at certain floors. Yeah. And perhaps it happened to me with a business partner not too long ago, where I just kept going to masterminds. I kept learning new shit. I kept doing new things, and yet he's still thinking about the primal scheming, you know, that I think we all do when we first start in business, where we're worried about, you know, where you're worried about competition, and you're always worried about this person and that person.
You're focused on almost everything outside of your business and actually just getting laser focused.
I think, and I think everybody goes through that. I mean, look, there's two types of people in the world, right? There's people who will build the biggest building with the hard work, and they'll build it right, and they'll build that on strong foundation. And there's other people that will try to rip every other building down around them so they maintain they are the biggest, they stay in the tallest, right? And I just couldn't see things that way anymore. I just couldn't vibe with that shit, and he knew it for a long time, so he really never approached me about it, but I knew he was still fucking thinking and moving and just acting in that way.
Super average way of thinking.
A way of thinking.
And is more just about himself when he doesn't understand, one, serving feels way better, and secondly, it's actually far more profitable.
Right. So I had to break a very profitable alignment at some point, because I was putting in the work to become a different person. And I'm not even saying that he's bad or that's bad, right? I'm just saying that
a different person.
We are not aligned. Yeah, we are not aligned anymore. Yeah. Right. You know? So at that point, I just had to move on, because it was causing chaos. It was causing stress. Right. Almost like you ever like back when you were in high school, you have like a girlfriend that you break up with and you just want to get rid of, and they chase you around and they bother you all the time. And they try calling you all the time, right? You know, the annoying ex-girlfriend.
I never had one. I needed one. I wanted to.
Trevor just snagged on anything he got a hold of, huh? He was like,
I just wanted to be wanted, bro.
They broke up with him. He was the girlfriend chasing him around.
Yeah.
I'm
he
like,
was the one, right?
Totally get it.
Yeah,
but I
you know
was
what I
on
mean?
the other side.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Becky, how come you don't call
You
me
guys
back?
are probably going to get this with some of the businesses that you guys let go as well, that are going to contact you back being like, well, you think we could just talk about this a little bit more, guys? You know, we don't think you're assholes anymore like the last 5,000 emails we sent you.
Yeah, no, like we've done it before. We've even dropped clients.
Yeah.
You know, clients, and then also, in this case, referral partners.
There's some people that I love, but I won't do business with anymore. Yeah. You know, and I still find a way to love them, man. I'm like the individual who, you know, even with this situation with the other person, it got really bad, and it's where I actually learned the power of praying for your enemies. Simply because, like, anytime like I started getting upset, or I started getting fucking, you know, started feeling terrible about the situation, I would just immediately just start like praying over his children and saying, you know, hey, I hope because I really couldn't say anything nice about him, or, you know, authentically at the time. Right. So I would say things like, you know, hey, God, I just want you to take care of his children, make sure that, you know, that nothing ever happens to them. I know they're loving parents, and I would start off there, and it was very hard to utter out at first. Yeah. And I kept doing it over and over again, and next thing you know, these thoughts that were coming through my mind where I was angry started turning into loving thoughts. And when I started thinking about him, even though we were going through this terrible battle. When I started thinking about him, I was actually thinking good thoughts over his life. And I found out that's fucking super powerful, man, because, I mean, just simply hating somebody or getting angry all the time or getting worked up, that shit, you take that shit back home, you know?
That's
I mean,
the
there's like
emotion you're feeling,
association,
yeah.
you know, it plagues your whole life, because I could be mad about that and I could walk in and see my wife's face and she could say, how's your day today? And I would immediately associate what I was thinking about negatively with her face. It's called neuroassociation. If any of you guys, Tony Robbins, you know, he talks about that. And I knew that was starting to happen to me, where I was beginning to neuroassociate. I would be so angry about the situation, I would look at one of my employees and begin to associate that anger somewhere else. So I said, you know, what's the one thing that fucking I've heard all my life? You know, I barely go to church, but I always heard that if you pray for your enemies, it's fucking a good thing. And I wanted to figure out why.
They do that during meditation.
Yeah.
You know, on my meditation app, they're like, hey, think of somebody that just annoys you or irritates you. And he's like, okay, like, this is not cool. And then they're like, wish well over them. You know, and I'm like,
It's like a guided meditation.
Yeah.
I'm like, I wish they fell in a well. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
There's power in that, man.
They walk you through that steps, just retraining your brain, you know.
But ultimately, what is fucking hating somebody, man?
Yeah.
It's literally eating poison and hoping the other person dies.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty much.
Like, you know, and that's just a terrible way to live. It's like you're being inflicted with the fucking pain. You're the one who lives with it,
It's not a
right?
good strategy, because like history and patterns and everything tells us it doesn't fucking work.
And
long
so many
term.
people fucking rely on dark energy for business.
Yeah.
But let me tell you something, my friends, like fucking the light energy is where you want to step into. Because when you rely on dark energy, you're not doing it because you love it. You're doing it because you fucking hate something. Right? But when you step into the light energy, you're doing it because you love it. You're doing it because you want to serve your people. You're doing it because you have it tied to a dream. You're doing it because you've built something futuristic, right, that you're looking towards. Right. And when you step into that energy, that's so much more fucking powerful. You know, and you don't have to fucking hate your life while you're doing it. In dark energy, you'll do shit that you normally would hate, and you'll do it because you hate somebody else, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's times for that. There's times for dark energy. You got to step into a ring and do a jiu-jitsu match, or you want to play football. You're on a football team and you want to rip the other people's fucking head off. You know what I mean? There's shit like that we want to step into primally, but you don't want to make that your main fucking driver in business, where you go in every fucking day just because you're mad or you want to show the world. I mean, look, Tom Brady's not the fucking the best quarterback and one of the best quarterbacks in the world because he's fucking mad at somebody who cut him in his fucking ninth grade team, right? Yeah. Because he doesn't still go out there today to fucking be the best in the world because he's mad at this one person that cut him back then. I mean, he literally does it because he's self-actualizing. He's becoming really the best version of himself. Yeah. On the field. Well, I don't know if that's personally, but on the field he is.
Yeah.
Well, it's harder to knock you off path too if that's truly what your intentions are. If you are working in that light energy. I mean, look at somebody like Elon Musk.
Yeah.
He went and built SpaceX, and then he gets all these guys that he looked up to because he had this crazy big dream, right, to accomplish it. It was just so big, right? But he's just had this. He's working in the light energy about how this can change the world in all these positive ways. But then these guys that he looked up to, like even Neil Armstrong, start bashing him and trying to tear him down, right? Like hating on him, what he's doing. But and even though that stung and that hurt, he's like, man, these are like my idols. Yeah. Like most people, if you're not in the right energy, that's going to knock you down. You're like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this.
Right.
But he's like, man, these are my idols. Like he literally cried in the interview, like, man, these are my idols, man. And but at the end of the day, man, he still moved forward. He still put people in space, and he's still moving forward. Even though his haters were his idols.
Yeah,
that's right.
And it's because he's working in that light energy.
Come in and see what we're working on, and it's really cool.
And he's a great example of somebody who stepped into creative energy.
Yeah.
Creative energy is where the power's at, right? Because your competition can't beat you on a creative level. Yeah. Okay? So if your competition, like literally, if my competition tries to do what I'm doing today, they're already 6 to 8 months behind me. Right. Because what I'm doing today, like I'm already articulating a fucking year, right? Yeah. So my creative energy is always going to be a year ahead of everybody.
Right.
And when you step into that, if you just copy people, you end up being the other person's exhaust. Yeah. The same thing goes with people that try to copy influencers or try to act like this guy or act like that person rather than be their own authentic self. Right. They just end up being that individual's exhaust. They never actually are able to show the world exactly who they are.
Exactly.
And connect with the people that need them individually. You know, it's just across the board that the creative energy is what you want to step into. Yeah. And the moment that you jump into, you know, and I know a lot of us are competitive, right? But
I mean, really.
I'm not. You know,
I don't care about
competition.
I'm just kidding.
It's healthy.
Honestly,
I love it.
It's healthy to a sense. You know, it's healthy to a sense, but it also pulls you out of creative energy.
Right.
It really does. You can feel it pull you out of creative energy. I mean, if you just focus on what the fuck your company's doing, and you have, I mean, do you think Elon is worried about somebody fucking building another rocket ship?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, in all honesty, like his creative, like look how far he's ahead of everybody on the fucking electric cars, and he just fucking built the company like not too long ago in comparison to, I mean, he fucking swamped himself with creative energy.
Right.
You know, and the deeper that you're into that creative energy where you're fucking artist, you're architect of your fucking world.
Well, you need to understand also, because he was that.
Yeah.
And he's built Tesla over the last, 10 or 12 years.
Now he's got competition.
No, because he used his creative energy, he was able to do something that GM couldn't do, Ford couldn't do.
That's right.
All of these car brands that have been around for 80 years or 50, 60 years, he's doing something greater than what they've done in 60, 70, 80 years within 1 decade because of his creative energy, right?
That's right.
And because of the belief that he has in what he's doing.
I
So
mean,
that their stock is $1,000+ a share when you've got like Ford, GM. I mean, they're $50 to $200 a share. So you've got a company that's only been around for a decade, valued 5, 6, 7 times higher than these companies that have been juggernauts, but they weren't staying creative outside of let's change the body style so that we can get new buyers coming in. That's why they changed the body style, is so that people could tell you got the old model, and some people are so self-conscious that they don't want people to think that they got the old model.
Yeah.
So you'll go from a 2017 and you're going to hurry and buy the 2020 because it's the new body style and you want everyone to know you're driving a new whip.
Yeah.
So that's like how creative they get.
That's right. Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. And if he was being competitive, he would have tried to build a better Ford truck.
Right.
You know what I mean? And call it Tesla. But he did something that the dude has fucking giant balls too. I mean, he literally, when he sold the company PayPal, I mean, he took all of his fucking money and put it down on SpaceX, which is an insane. Like if
he
you
did some on Tesla, some on SpaceX, and then the other one was like Solar City, like 10 million or something. And now all of them are fucking crushing it.
That's right.
But he was sleeping on his buddy's couch,
Yeah.
having nervous breakdowns and shit.
I like to say
borrow money
we're
for
crushing it because I own
Yeah.
some stock. I like to say we're crushing it.
Oh yeah, we are.
Me and Elon are really crushing it
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah. Kel's like, I own 3 shares of the company. Like 3%? No, 3 shares of the company.
I like 100 shares.
You know
dude.
what though,
dude.
man? Isn't it the fucking truth that before anybody's big success, like right before that, there's always a fucking dip. There's always a depressing moment. There's always a moment.
The big thing that says, how bad do you really want it?
That's right.
Let's see you hit this fucking curveball.
Are you going to give up?
Yeah.
Are you going to walk away?
Yep.
I mean, every single person that's done anything at any fucking magnitude has had to deal with that.
Well, that's why it's like people need to understand, if they're in the midst of chaos right now in their business, then they're in the midst of something special, provided they figure out how to harness that and get rid of the chaos side of it. Figure out what's causing the chaos so that you can rocket fuel it,
You know, guys, did I ever tell you guys I got a trampoline in my office?
Like a Tony Robbins trampoline, those little teeny ones.
Little trampoline.
Little bladder busters
And
if
I
you
would
gotta pee.
I would get on there and jump on that motherfucker. I think I heard this from Dean Graziosi one day. He was explaining the trampoline thing, and essentially the whole premise behind it is that I would go and jump on it every morning. And it's the force that's holding us down that propels us to the next level. So that little dip in the trampoline when we fucking go down, that's the force that propels us to the next level. You're always going to have people in your life trying to suppress you. You're always going to have an audience that when you create a new business that like at first it fucking seems weird. I mean, it's always like that every single time. Like anything you launch into the market, there's always that hesitation. It's fucking a little bit weird. Now these guys are talking about this or that, right? And it's the people that excel through that. That's the force of the world trying to fucking hold you down that propels you to the next level.
Like NFTs or crypto.
Yeah.
It's all like when it's something new, it's suppressed until it becomes more relevant, right?
Yep.
So some people are just ahead of the curve. Though,
So now I get to the point to whenever I feel the dip, like I'll even tell her, I'm like, this is the dip. And she'll be like, when's it going to end?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, as long as it needs to be here, but we're going to fucking work hard to make it happen, right?
Hopefully it dips really low so that
Yes.
we hit that new peak.
That's right.
You know?
That's right, man.
Yeah.
But that literally, I start expecting, like I start going like, I just start fucking expecting like shit to fucking rocket right when I hit that dip. Like I understand, I know like anything that I've ever launched has had that dip. And there's two types of people. There's people that'll fucking, use that as momentum, and there's other people that'll fucking roll over and give up.
Oh, yeah.
And the people that roll over and give up are going to just go back to life the way that it was, the normal shit that they were experiencing. They had an opportunity to level up. And I think it's the same thing in our life in general. As we level up as human beings, you're going to hit an emotional dip.
Yeah.
And there's even some like in-depth study that talks about that when we transform mentally, it takes like 60 to 90 days to have a cellular transformation.
Yes.
So your insides have to catch up with what you're fucking experiencing. And there's a period during that time that you actually start mourning the death of the old you.
Right.
Now, I've gotten so used to it because I level up so often. I mean,
You're like, rest in peace every day.
I
you wake up like, fucking rest in peace to that fucking John Highley
I would say every fucking quarter, man, I figured like there's something like 75 hard this last time was really spiritual for me. Like it was a spiritual transformation. And it got really intense. It fucking changed me this time. And that was like a 90-day level up. But there's a period when you're leveling up as a human being where people won't understand you because you're talking different, you're acting different, right? And there's a point where you won't understand like why you kind of feel like shit. And that's ultimately you're mourning the death of the old you.
Yeah.
But the more self-aware, I think we begin this podcast by talking about being self-aware, right? But the more self-aware that you are of these things, the easier that you can work through them. And then you actually get to the point where when you go into that darkness, like I got to the point over this last,
accepting it a little bit more.
I got over the point of this last fucking battle where I knew that I was going into a dark place for a while. I got to the point to where I actually wanted to stay there a little bit longer because I was learning shit about myself. Yeah. I was in there like literally asking myself going, man, like, why are you mad about this? Like, why does this upset you? Because, you can even contributed to this, right? Yeah. Like, okay, you want to be...
You start unwinding the knots at the bottom by asking those questions.
And you start asking yourself these empowering fucking questions. Yep. And then I'm figuring so much out about myself during the dark times that you couldn't figure out during the good times, right? So I believe that we become like kind of like whole as human beings when we can fucking accept the dark times in such a way that we fucking learn and we become better.
I don't think
become
people
more
are
powerful.
using their dark times for a production period.
You can become a more loving person, man.
Weather the storm rather than learn inside the storm and grow in the storm, so to speak, right? If everything's good, you're not going to self-evaluate.
Yeah.
If the cash and checks, life's easy, why would you ask yourself difficult questions at that time? There's no need to. You actually need the darkness so that you can ask yourself the right questions and make the adjustments that you need to make as an individual.
And some people try to rush through the storms without asking any questions at all, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They just rush through it. And the problem is if you ask questions, maybe there's a fucking secret axe that's hidden somewhere, right? And this fucking superpower that you fucking left behind, you could have brought back out into light with you.
Yeah.
And then when you came back out into the light as that new, different, fucking renewed human being, you're actually using your darkness as a fucking technique to grow and become better. And also kind of like appreciate the negative feelings, man. I mean, I don't think people give enough light to this whole experience that we have, just life in general, right? Yeah. Is it negative? Like, feel the fucking negative shit, man. Yeah. Like, feel it and understand it. Like, if we didn't have that, man, we wouldn't even know what fucking happiness was. Yeah. You know, would this world be fucking weird if everybody was just smiling like Tom Cruise on Oprah? Like, walking around with that fucking glazed smile, jumping up and down.
We'd all have footprints on our couches at home.
The shit would be fucking weird. And, I mean, so this life that we have, this dynamic, this fucking thing that we have is just so precious that even the terrible times, man, can become something that we can use to shape ourselves and absorb and feel and just become better.
It has to be.
And it has to be.
And you got to quit running from it, man. Like, so many people, I mean, I've got a friend recently, his girlfriend cheated on him and all this shit. He got right back with her because he's just so broken. And instead of like leaning into all these things, because like whenever you get like, say, cheated on or broke up with, it's like, and you're like, what's wrong with me and all this shit, and it feels uncomfortable. Instead of staying in that and asking those questions and figuring it out and exploring, like, these different paths, and like they just get back together with them,
Yeah.
or they jump right into another relationship because they're like, oh, I just don't want to feel this way, and it's like that way in life and business, man. You gotta like lean into it a little bit.
Well,
Quit running from it.
Another thing is I stopped leaning on my own understandings.
Yeah.
So I stopped evaluating things on my own, and I started just accepting faith. And what I mean by faith is not even a religious term, meaning that faith is a belief in the unseen. I would believe that everything is guiding me to the right direction.
Me too.
Like I stopped, like I'm not going to contemplate why this happened. I'm not going to fucking sit here and haggle in my mind and lean on my own understandings. I'm going to have faith that this specifically fucking happened to move me into this direction. Yep. And I will just know that it's bringing me, I will have faith that at the end of this fucking journey, that it's going to bring me to the right place. And it fucking, dude, every time. Single time.
Every time.
Every single time.
Some people don't understand why there's a bad situation happening, and they look at it as just a bad situation. But what they need to understand is that's just redirecting you. And if you don't take the time to actually,
it's correction.
That's all it is. The reason that happened will show light 6 months, 12 months, 2 years down the road, and you'll look back and be like, holy shit, I was pretty upset about this bad situation, but if I didn't have that bad situation, then I wouldn't have made this adjustment that ultimately put us in the situation that we're sitting in today. And then when you have enough experiences like that over a decade or however long, then you just start being like, well, if it's going to happen, it'll happen. If it's supposed to, it will.
Yes.
And if it doesn't, it's probably because it shouldn't have happened, and we'll find out why later.
And it'll come to you quicker the more faith that you have.
Yep. Yep.
That's exactly how you practice it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's exactly how you practice it. Is you just get better at rolling with it, man.
You let go
It's
of that control.
weird.
Mm-hmm.
You let go of that control. You know. There's a little thing I want to give your audience before I know we're probably are we getting
We
closer?
never know anymore, dude.
We never know.
Lately, shit's been going like 2 hours sometimes.
Yeah.
1:30.
Yeah.
We're a long one.
Yeah.
But a good one, dude. Like,
I guess I just want to give something to your audience to like really take home on this, okay? Yeah. And we're talking to a lot of business owners here, right? The Real Business Owner podcast, and you really haven't been a real business owner unless you fucking woke up in the middle of the night with stress, pain, fucking, you've literally got to the point where
you were able to even go to sleep.
Yeah. If you haven't woke up in the middle of the night with so much fucking pain that you couldn't go back to sleep, you're probably not a real business owner, right? You haven't dealt with that level of fucking pain. Again, you listen to what we're talking about here, you'll get through that pain much quicker, right? But this is what I call the keys to the kingdom, okay? So if you ever wake up in the middle of the night and you have that pain, or let's just say you have that pain in general, go over and first sit down and get very quiet, right? Just get very quiet, get peaceful. Go to a quiet place and get peaceful. Get in touch with God. Go to like solitude, right? Yeah. And just let that come over your life. And whether you call it God, Allah, universe, same thing. I love everybody, man. I don't care, Don't judge me. I won't judge you. I love it, But you go and you get quiet and you start listening to them deeper feelings, start to become self-aware, right? And then the next thing you do is you take a piece of paper and you write down everything that you're grateful for. Everything, including the clothes that you're wearing, the roof that's over your head, the toilet that you shit on, everything that you can be grateful for, your health. Right. A lot of people realize like money ain't shit. If you got your health, people give up all the money in the fucking world. Steve Jobs would give up all of his money in the world for an extra week on this earth, so you write down everything that you're grateful for. And then on the second page, you write down all of your wins. Okay. All right. So the very first thing, the reason why you go to gratitude is because fear can't exist where gratitude lives. Right. So you're literally moving your mind from a fearful state to a grateful state. They can't exist. They can't coexist together. Yeah. Yep. You can't be grateful and have fear at the same time. So it's impossible. And the more that you're grateful, you're closer to the creator. Again, whether that's the universe, God, Allah, whatever you want to call it, Buddha, who cares, right? You're getting closer to the creative source. Yep. Okay. Might I remind everybody when I say creative source that the fucking car you're driving was once in a mountain. Once in a fucking mountain. Okay? Yeah. And man created that fucking shit. So yes, you are a creative source. Mm-hmm. Right. And we were created by a creative source, and we're the only fucking ones that can create. Yeah. Okay? So you write down your gratitude list. Next, you write down a list of all your wins. I don't give a fuck if you won the smallest fish award like I did when I was a kid. Write down everything. Smallest fish, right? Get your wall of Gaylord out, the jock strap, all that shit, right? And write down everything that you've done in the past, any win that you've ever had, right? Because now you're rewiring your brain. You've done it before, you can do it again. Okay? All right, so once you've got all that written down, take that and put that piece of paper aside. Don't do it on your phone, fucking write it, okay? Write it by hand. Next, put what the problem is at the top. What would fix your fucking problem? What is the one thing? What is the fucking one thing that'll fix your problem? Is it to go out and fucking hustle your ass off and make money? What is it, right? Write that down, and then I want you to draw a line in the middle. And then on one side, I want you to write down everything that you can do to fucking accomplish that goal. Right. Okay, write down everything that you need to do to accomplish that goal. Put a little fucking box beside it. And then on the other side of the list, I want you to write down everything that you have no control over. Okay? And then you take the list you have no control over, you give that shit to fucking God. And then you just sit down, you put your head to the fucking stone, and you focus on the other side of the list. That's the fucking keys of the kingdom, my friend. That's it. All this.
So too many people are focusing on the things that they don't even have control.
They don't
over,
even have
and
control
they're
over
about something that.
And then
they couldn't have changed, like a COVID situation or whatever, rather than just focusing on what you
doing
can be
the fucking
doing.
work.
Yeah.
Most people don't know what the work is.
Yeah.
This defines what the work is. And you write down that list and you go through that list, because after that, all you can do is do the work, my friends. Like after that, you got to give it up to God. You got to give it up to some other. All you can do is sit down.
Faith. You got to have faith that
you
if
got to
I
have
do
faith.
these things, then something good will come of it. I don't know.
If you sow your seed, you're going to be able to reap.
Exactly.
And then what you do is you start sowing that seed and you start getting ready and preparing for a harvest. You start spending time getting your mind right. You start letting go of these fucking fearful thoughts, these things that you can't control, these things you have no control over. And you start focusing on the shit that you can control. And you take 100% responsibility over your life. And that's the keys of the kingdom.
Yep.
That's the one thing that, like, I know right now there's somebody listening to this. You guys are probably going to get a fucking letter, a couple months from now, 6 months from now, that
you
if
saw
you
the one yesterday.
Yeah.
We get letters in the mail and gifts and things like that, and we appreciate it.
Yeah.
No doubt. Like, it does help. I mean, it helps when you get a letter. It's like, oh, you guys have meant this much to us. This is what have transpired over the last year or two since we followed you or listened to you. It's amazing to be able to read those and make the impact like that.
And ultimately, for anybody out there who's looking for an excuse, I'm sorry, I just fucking erased that from your being, because what I just told you guys to do, there's no fucking excuse. Like that, what I just told you guys to stop and do, if you're fucking worried and you're having problems and shit isn't going right, if you stop and do what I just told you right there.
But it's so funny that
there's
some
no
people,
excuse.
I know, but it just can't be that easy, John. It can't.
Yeah.
So some people are like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'm not gonna do it.
But they got to do it.
Yeah, exactly. But the funny
right
thing,
people
there will be people that do it. But it's funny, the people that actually do the things that we talk about or make the adjustments that we recommend, they're the ones seeing the results. So therefore, it's only the action takers that are actually succeeding in the world, and everybody else is bitching and moaning and griping or coming up with excuses. That sounds too. There's no way. That's too easy. Life has to be more complicated than
Life
that.
has to be more complicated than that.
Even
though I sat here on a podcast and told him I created a multi-million-dollar company by drawing something on a fucking piece of paper.
Yeah.
And looking through the phone book and fucking driving down to a place and handing it to him.
So,
shit is just so complicated.
He was a doodle and a phone book away from a multi-million-dollar business, but probably no, it can't be that easy.
I mean, there was years behind that of adding value, of giving the world your gift, but you know, people got to realize that people aren't just going to fucking hand their money over to anybody.
Yeah.
You got to get out there and give your gift away for a while, man.
That's really that's the ticket right there.
I don't need to toot my own horn, but when we started the episode, I'm like, dude, I've just always seen this power in you, and you just pay such close attention. This episode is so confirming, man. It's like everyone's out there trying to figure out how to be a better marketer, and it's like, you know what? You've paid so much attention to things before you went out to get attention, and then the last half of this episode, we're talking about paying attention to your damn self, man. Really developing that self-awareness so that you can level up like that trampoline to propel you into these next levels. It's like, man, it's where it all starts, dude. And that's what I've just always noticed about you. And it's just so refreshing to go through this whole episode. We talked about deep shit, and then we talked about some of that tactical business stuff. And it all starts with just like really paying close attention and applying yourself. And that's just... You're the fucking wizard at it, dude. And it's just, I'm so glad you came here and dropped that all on our
appreciate
audience,
that,
dude.
man.
I'm sure people are gonna reach out to you, especially because, dude, I mean, we're hiring you to help us build our shit. You know, it's like, we don't just bring people on here and try and promote all this shit, but Like you're the real deal, man.
Well,
So-
when you guys have your events, man, I'll be happy to come out there, man. Help fucking coordinate them with you guys
dude.
and speak
I've
to
already
the audience,
I've
man.
already
It'll be
visualized
fun.
that, bro.
Yeah,
Like, people that are gonna
yeah.
be at our events, like already know who a great handful of them are.
Yeah, we're gonna take them, man. I'm gonna step in there with you guys. We're gonna take them to a level of fucking marketing that they just ain't never even fucking seen or dealt with or can completely understand.
Let me ask you this: if somebody doesn't want to wait for an event,
Yeah.
to reach out to you to ask you questions or talk about doing business with you, how would they go about doing that? Is there a website or
Two
do you
places.
prefer social media shit or what?
Yeah, 2 places that I send anybody, and that would be
Bosshog.com. That's why I called you
I
Boss
wish
Hog
I
at the
had
big-
that, man. That actually would be probably a valuable domain name. But
Savage Boss Hog.
no, it
We're
is.
like, hey, there you go.
yeah. They can head on over to. I got a Facebook group that I welcome anybody in to ask questions, things like that. I interact with everybody in there. We do giveaways. That is the Marketing Savage Facebook group. I love that group of people. Yeah,
My wife's in there.
and yeah, I know.
lives in
Yeah,
Angela.
she likes a lot of the stuff, and then she was even posting in there and commenting on some stuff. So. Yeah, it was cool because we spent some time recently down in Texas, and we just had such a good time, man. I just love, and you guys are some genuine motherfuckers, man. I don't know if any of you guys really can understand this, but there's a lot of fucking people that are like ego freaks out there, and there's like a lot of fucking, people that I've dealt with that I won't do business with because of their fucking attitude.
Yeah.
They're just terrible people in general, but when
They're
they
high
when they
on how
hop on
much money they
but when they
make.
hop on camera there or like on their podcast, they're totally fucking different. Like you guys are the same. If anything, man, you guys are like even better humans like off the camera. Like, you guys get stern with your audience, man, but just as humans in general, you guys are fucking amazing people, man. You
Dude,
guys
thank
have always just been such incredible
Yeah.
friends, and I've never seen these
We've,
two.
we've always
I've
always
never
said
seen
that
these
about
two, including
Yeah.
you and your wife, hanging out with. I mean, Kale, and I mean, I've never seen you guys treat anybody like less than fucking just good people. I mean, regardless of who they are, I don't give a fuck if they're at a gas station or you are the type of people that I love
Thank
doing
you.
life with because you guys
Likewise.
value individuals no matter where they're at in life,
Yeah.
and that's super powerful for me to see people in the world that
yeah,
are doing
well,
this.
I think what
He's a
you're
lot, bro,
I
especially
think
for
what
you.
you're seeing is just a reflection of who you are too.
Yeah.
I think that's why sometimes people gravitate towards each other. It's like, I like that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Well, it's because you're cut from the same cloth.
from the same cloth,
Both
yeah.
been through some shit, some struggles,
Yeah.
and just,
But I just
at
want-
a good place right now.
Yeah, and I just want the audience to know that
Yeah.
about you too, man. It's they're the real deal, man. You guys are in a great place, and then
that's
again,
that's our entrepreneurship group. Is
Yeah.
the real deal.
the real deal.
Come join us at the
So
real
yeah,
deal.
yeah,
You know, just kidding.
yep. So you can get with me over at the Marketing Savage group, or you can head on over to marketingsavage.com. And you can check out my book for any of you guys who are interested in a marketing book. It's not like it's really deep spiritually. So I'll tell you guys who are just looking for a bunch of tactical stuff. Probably only 30% of it's tactical. 70% of it's about rewiring your energy. And
Which is important to be successful in general, anyway.
Swear, that's how my
marketing
book
is a
ended up.
transfer.
Yeah.
It's a transfer of energy. Like
Yeah.
Kale said, you got to be excited about your products and stuff like
Yes.
that. Inside of there, I believe that I teach you how to come in contact with fucking who you were meant to be, because I believe you would be a better marketer if you just found out who you were meant to be, what you were going to show up to be in the world, and present that to the world.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, that's what
You can't
what
be
the
your
world
authentic
needs.
self if you don't even know who the fuck you are.
Yeah. People always say, well, what's my purpose? And I say, well, you don't know your purpose, right? And I said, well, I know what your purpose is. They say, what? And I say, well, it's to find your purpose.
Find your purpose. Yeah. Like, that's
Let's start there.
Yeah.
Let's start there. That's your purpose.
Exactly. That's your purpose until we figure something else
It's
out.
true,
It
though.
is true.
Yeah.
Guys, make sure that you reach out to John. Amazing individual. Every time that me and Kel go down to Dallas and we see him at the Apex meetups, we're always like, the Higleys.
Yeah.
Where are they at, dude?
Mhm.
He gives good hugs too,
Yeah.
so that helps.
Yep.
Your cool score. So make sure that you make sure you reach out to an individual like this. Again, we've talked about on the last few episodes, like we expose you guys to people that are doing real shit, people that are making, a positive impact, not only in their own lives, but when they do that, they end up creating businesses that are of impact, because they understand how important that is. And so that's exactly what John has done. And he's definitely a giver. And he'll make sure that if you guys do business together, you'll get exactly what he says you're going to get. Yeah. And there's going to be work involved on your side of it as well. That's just the way that a good marriage works, right? Whether it's a business relationship.
I spend a fair amount of time running people off,
You
because
know?
of their, and nicely, but you know what I mean? Like just
Like
letting
quit
people
being
know
a
that
bitch, like either you're in or you're not.
I just let people know what it's going to take,
Yeah.
and if they're not willing to do what it's going to take, then they they probably shouldn't do it.
Right.
Yeah,
really.
exactly.
You'd rather
Yeah.
put your
Exactly.
energy
Yeah,
into the
rather
ones
just
that
be
aren't,
honest
too.
at the beginning and
What's your tell them about your podcast
yeah.
too.
So the podcast is Marketing Revolution.
Marketing Revolution, and what can somebody expect to find on your podcast? Just any topic?
Oh man,
or
I do
is it-
everything. Like there for the longest time, I actually was doing it 7 days a week, and I told myself I did that for a year.
Yeah.
And the 7 day a week thing went from everything from a Savage Sunday sermon, where I would do like basically a Sunday sermon where I was dropping fuck bombs in between Jesus and all this,
Verses,
right?
yeah.
And which was pretty intense, but it's very interesting. All the way to Marketing Mondays, Tactical Tuesdays.
Gotcha.
I'd have the Winner Wednesday where I'd give away something, and then on Thursdays I'd do interviews, and on Friday I did Fuck It Friday, where I would talk about things that you should not give a fuck about. And then Saturdays I did something else, and then on Sundays was the Savage Sunday sermon. So you would like literally you're going to get a mix of all kinds of shit from long interviews to very short tactical episodes. Is what the whole podcast
Well,
is
the only
composed
reason why I
of.
say that is just, people need to get more information from you. People need to, kind of be in your ecosystem. So I'm just trying to exhaust all areas that they can find you and connect with you. So, guys, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. I know me and Kale did. Anytime that we're with the Higleys is a good day. So
The ones we lose track of time are always the best ones. Bro.
yeah,
I know.
exactly.
Yeah, I know.
So, sorry for the long episode, but you're also welcome, at the same time. So, guys, as always, take care, kick ass, and have a good day.